So, you can't wrap your head around why your opponent's attacks land faster than yours. Or maybe your enemy's swings are so slow your counter timings get all mixed up. What the heck are they doing different? My name is StripedSweater, and in this video, we'll be going over Drags and Accels, making you a master in the art of swing manipulation. A core element to the series and other medieval slasher games is the ability to manipulate your swing in real time while it is being performed. This gives the user full control over when and how their strike lands on the opponent and can make swings hit sooner or later than they should. Manipulating your swing is rather easy to do. Simply move your mouse or control stick while your swing is being performed to alter your weapon's swing path and therefore its active hitbox. This action is known as dragging your swing. Alright, so why is this important? The art of dragging comes in many shapes and forms and has multiple use cases for each different swing type. Let's go over the basics first.
Dost thou break, rogue?
The classic drag. The most common type of dragging, and the one most often associated with the term drag, involves pulling your weapon in the opposite direction your swing is moving in. For example, let's assume you swing at the enemy with a horizontal slash from right to left. In order to slow down your swing, you would move your mouse or control stick to the right while the swing is in its release phase. The premise behind this drag is to delay as long as possible when your swing will reach the opponent. So why would you want to slow down your swing? In Chivalry 2, the primary purpose of a drag is to mix up your enemy's counter timing. By slowing down when your swing will reach the enemy, you can force their counter window to end before it even had the chance of activating, resulting in a successful hit by you. The classic drag can be done with both left and right horizontal slashes as well as both overheads. With the overheads, since your weapon is swinging downwards, you want to pull the mouse up and away in order to delay the hit. The Accel. The second most common type of drag is called the Accel. The premise behind this drag is to accelerate your strike so that it hits faster than normal. Where the classic drag has you pulling away from the direction of your swing, an Accel has you lean into and follow through in the same direction the swing is moving in. For example, if you're using an overhead strike, in order to excel your attack, you'll want to look down toward your enemy's legs where your swing is moving. Accels are great for catching your opponent off guard with an attack that is slightly faster than normal. How it works. Now, you might be confused on how an attack can be faster or slower than someone else's, especially when using the same weapon. Let me take a minute to explain. A weapon swing comes in two phases, the wind-up and the release phase. The wind-up phase is the first part of an attack where you pull the weapon back toward you before the actual swing. You cannot damage someone during the wind-up phase. The release phase is when you finally swing your weapon. During the release phase is when your weapon has an active hitbox that can collide with someone and do damage. Both of these phases have their own timings on how long they last, usually measured in milliseconds. The entire premise of Accels and drags is based on when you hit someone during the release phase. Let's look at the classic drag. The reason we are pulling away from the opponent during this drag is to hit them at the last possible millisecond of our release phase. This maximizes the time that your swing is active and consequently makes it feel like an attack is slower even though they have fixed swing timings. For anyone familiar with fighting games, think of it as hitting at the last possible frame of your attack animation. The same logic can be applied to an Accel. The reason you are leaning into your swing is to cut down on the time it takes your weapon to travel to your enemy so that it hits them at the first possible millisecond of your release phase. Essentially, you want to put your weapon inside or as close to the enemy as you can during your windup. That way, as soon as your windup finishes and your release phase begins, you are already making contact. This is the reason that even if you or your opponent have the same weapon and swing at the exact same time with the same swing type, the person who excels their swing, even slightly, will hit first. Heavy attacks. Heavy attacks also play an important role when it comes to dragging weapons for one obvious reason. They are slower. While heavy attacks don't add any extra time to your release phase, they extend your attack's wind-up phase and therefore make the overall swing take longer to perform. When we think about a drag, the intent is to slow down our weapon as much as possible to mix up our enemy and get them to counter too early. Heavy attacks serve the same purpose since they delay when the actual swing comes out. Additionally, the extra wind-up time that heavy attacks gives helps immensely with footwork during a fight, and can get you a few more steps around your opponent before your attack lands to try and hit them in the back. On top of this, they reward you with more damage if you manage to land a hit. Just be mindful that a heavy attack costs more stamina than a normal swing. So Sweater, why bother with drags if we can just use heavy attacks? While a heavy attack can serve the same purpose as a drag and can be used to easily fool lesser experienced players, veterans will have a better eye and patience for timing their counter. How do we solve this? Drag your heavy attacks. Combining both drags and heavy swings together allows you to perform some of the slowest hitting drags in the game, and if done right, can fool opponents of all skill levels. Stab drags. Let's talk about stabs. We know we can drag and excel our swings, but what about our stabs? While stabs can't be excelled, you can most definitely drag them. Stab drags have one primary purpose: to get around your opponent's block. A stab's hitbox is straightforward toward your enemy. By moving your mouse or control stick either left, right, up, or down, you can manipulate this path and cause a stab to have a broader hitbox than normal. By stabbing beside your enemy and quickly flicking your mouse or control stick to the right or left, you can avoid hitting directly into your enemy's block. Doing this, combined with either a left or right stab and a little bit of footwork, can have your opponent wondering how you keep avoiding their block with all your stabs. Using a heavy stab can also help with landing your stab drag by giving you a couple more steps to maneuver around your foe during the longer windup. If you're having trouble pulling this off, try waiting until the very end of the stab animation before flicking hard to the left or right. Remember, stabs have a relatively short release window compared to slashes and overheads, so you've gotta act fast. Dragging in a 1vx. Dragging your swing is extremely useful in 1vx situations in order to maximize damage as well as protect yourself. The goal with these drags is for your weapon to cover as much distance as possible during the release phase of the swing. For example, if you notice yourself getting surrounded, lean into your swing and carry it from one opponent to the next. This will maximize the potential width of your swing and result in hitting as many people as possible. Think of it like stretching out your attack. This can also be done with overheads and stabs, although to a lesser extent.
You outnumber me. You filthy bastard.
Tips. Getting the hang of drags and accels can be challenging for some, so I'm going to leave you guys with some personal suggestions to get you started in becoming a swing manipulation master. Number 1. Retaliation type matters. While it is possible to drag and excel both counters and riposts, you might find it easier to drag a riposte and excel a counter. Why is this? Since a counter has you initiating an attack before you block your enemy's swing, part of the swing's wind-up phase has already begun, leaving you with less wind-up time left once you block the enemy's attack, resulting in a faster hit. If we compare this to a riposte, you will have to wait for the full wind-up time of the swing to finish before the attack happens. A riposte should instead be used to drag. By using a riposte for drags, you are using your swing's maximum potential swing time to fool your enemy. This works particularly well against a counter spammer. Number 2. Use third person. A big issue most people find in first person with Drags and Accels is that since you are pulling away or looking past your enemy, they lose sight of what they are swinging at. Third person gives you a much larger visual of your opponent, yourself, and your weapon. Being able to keep all three of these things in sight can give you the situational awareness you need to better land your drag or Accel. Number 3. Don't over-drag or Accel. Relating back to the last point, many people lose sight of their opponent and miss their drag or Accel attempt because they send it too hard on the mouse.
Oh, you're smart like my shoe.
Relax. Take it easy. You don't need to whip your mouse across your desk to drag or Accel properly. For drags, try and match your mouse speed with the flow of your weapon swing. For Accels, you just need to make sure your weapon is close to the opponent before the release phase begins. Number 4. Drag with the swing, not before. Many players get stuck in the habit of pre-drags. This means they are positioning themselves for a drag during the wind-up phase. The issue with this is you are informing the opponent on what you are attempting to do, since your character's body movement is giving it away. For best results, start your drag when the release phase begins. This way, you don't telegraph your intention to your enemy too early. You can tell your enemy's intent by watching where exactly their head is looking when they are performing their swing. If their head is looking toward their swing direction, anticipate an Accel. If their head is looking away from their swing direction, anticipate a drag. Something I like to do to mix up my opponent is to make them think that the opposite is happening. How do I accomplish this? For drags, I start by faking an Accel during the wind-up phase, and just before the release phase begins, I start my actual drag. This can be useful for getting them to counter early. Number 5. Crouch to Accel overheads better. Overhead Accels are one of the fastest attack options you have to try and catch your opponent off guard. You can make them slightly faster if you crouch while excelling them. By crouching, you are lowering yourself closer to the enemy, and therefore your overhead swing has less travel distance before colliding with them. Number 6. Condition your opponent. I cannot stress enough how important this is. Your goal with conditioning is to get your enemy used to a particular flow of combat and then suddenly breaking that flow so they make a mistake. You can do this with Accels and drags. For example, you can start a fight by excelling your swings against your opponent and retaliating with only Accels. Repeat these Accel retaliations a few times to establish a rhythm for your foe, and then suddenly hit them with a drag. Your enemy will be used to the fast attack pattern and inputting their counter immediately, that a slow drag will catch them and their counter attempt off guard. Number 7. Understand your weapon. It's important to know what your weapon's strengths are. A naturally slow weapon like the Highland Sword will really benefit from drags that make your attacks even slower. A fast weapon like the Mace will get you better results if you excel it. Now that doesn't mean you shouldn't excel a Highland Sword or drag a Mace. Those are still options for each one. You just might find certain weapons do Accels or drags better than others. Essentially, if your weapon swing has a long release phase, it will be able to drag very effectively. If your weapon swing has a short wind-up phase, it will Accel effectively. Longer weapons are also easier to drag than short ones. This is because they allow you to turn your character further away from your enemy than short weapons and still manage to tap them with it at the end, since they have a larger swing arc. There are also some weapons that are more well-rounded and can Accel and drag equally well. This can be for the reason they have quick light attacks and slow heavies, or they have varying swing speeds based on the swing type, or they have more range and therefore a larger swing arc. I've provided a list on screen of some weapons and what they are good at for you to try while learning drags and Accels. Well guys, that wraps up our lesson on drags and accels. Hopefully, you now have a better understanding on what swing manipulation is and how to use it to your advantage in combat. Remember, it can take some time to get the hang of drags and accels, so don't get discouraged if you're struggling with it. With a little bit of practice, you can become a master yourself. If you enjoyed the video, kindly leave a thumbs up and feel free to provide feedback or suggestions in the comments below. For more high quality Chivalry 2 content, press that subscribe button to know when new videos get uploaded. Thanks for watching everyone, I'll see you next time.